Hi, so what I'm going to do here is show you very quickly how to add some keyframes to a layer. What we're looking at in particular here is adding keyframes to this text layer that we've got. So we've actually got a comp here with two layers within it. Okay, one is a video layer of a wine glass in the background, and the other is this piece of text. Okay, and the keyframe that I'm going to property I'm going to adjust here is going to be the position property for the text. So I'm going to be moving that text around. And because I like to work visually and just actually grab the text and drag it to where I like, what I'm going to firstly do is actually lock up the video layer in the background, and I'll put the lock symbol on so it can't move by mistake. That's something that can happen all too easily. Okay, so like I said, we're going to keyframe this text. So what do we mean by keyframing and why are we doing it? The thing with keyframing is it allows you to animate something over time, and you can animate any property you like, really. Like I said, in this case we're looking at position, but it could be all kinds of other things like scale, rotation, or any other effect that we put on. So keyframing is the animation part, because you see otherwise I want to change its position property. Well, I can move this text position anytime I like. I can put it wherever I want. I want it right over the wine glass. However, when I move my playhead, the text itself doesn't go anywhere. That's the only place it will remain. If I put it over here, the exact same thing happens. It remains there for the entire duration of the clip. So what I'm going to do is keyframe it so we can create some animation. Okay, and just zooming out there by mistake. Right, so what I want to happen with the text is it's going to start off frame on the right hand side, and then it's going to animate across. So it goes horizontally across this frame past the glass, and it stops somewhere in this corner. And I'd like that to happen from, say, the very beginning, so at the start of the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the position property. So I select my layer, and I'm going to press P as a shortcut key to bring up just the position properties for that layer. And you'll notice next to the word position we have this little stopwatch icon on the left, and that stopwatch icon turns keyframes on. So if I press that, you'll notice straight away it's added a keyframe at 0 seconds in time. So that means it will remember that at 0 seconds in time that's where the text is supposed to be. However, you'll find obviously at this point we don't have animation, because you can't animate with just one keyframe. You need more than that. So any more than one keyframe and you've got an animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my text up to be over here, so it's just off the frame. And then all I have to do now, because I've turned keyframing on, as you can see the button's still pressed, it will automatically keep adding keyframes. I don't actually need to press anything else. All I need to do is move my playhead, so let's say move it to about 2 seconds, and then just decide where my new placement of the text is. So actually now I want the text to be over here. Drag it across, and you'll find it's added a second keyframe. And now you'll find that when I drag my playhead along, it remembers on the first keyframe the text is off the frame, and on the last keyframe it's there, but it creates an animation between those two, and so hence you have this movement. Okay, so that's basically how we create keyframes. Just to finish that off, or mention a couple of other things, is obviously what you can do with keyframes is if you're playing that back and say you're like, okay, that's a little bit too slow, beware it's not playing in real time. There it is now, there we go. But say that's a little bit too slow, well, I can just select a keyframe. In fact, there you go, click it and drag it and pull it closer together, and by pulling the keyframes closer together, that should then create a faster animation. If I want to slow it down, I can move it, and if I want to just move the entire animation itself, I can actually click and drag along here, along the position properties, make sure I highlight all my keyframes, and just move them together and say, okay, no, you know what, I want you to come in at about 2 seconds to 3 seconds instead. And there we go. So I've actually changed the time that it comes in there. So you can move keyframes around like that and adjust the animation even after you've added them in. What I would say is as well, you'll find if you do select the layer, you'll see that you've got all this line with these little dots, and obviously that's showing you the motion path. But as well as the motion path, these little dots are actually reflecting where the text is on every single frame. So if I pull this back, you'll notice, it may be quite difficult to see here, but generally text has, like any other object, has a anchor point or a central point that's used to decide how text will rotate. This layer itself will rotate or move. So in other words, when we adjusting the position property, we're just adjusting it from this point here rather than adjusting the entire thing. So it's this point that moves. Okay, and so what you'll find is that is showing us where the anchor point will be from one frame to another, so as I move through frame by frame. So you've got, that's what those little dots actually mean. But notice as well, you've got some big dots too. You've got one on the end there and one on the end there. Those are actually our keyframes. So what it's also doing is showing us anywhere we've got keyframes. So what's quite nice is if I say pull my playhead in to about central point there, okay, and if I want to add another keyframe now, what I would do is, obviously if I change the position property, it will automatically add a keyframe, but I just want a keyframe at that point in time. So what I can't do is press that stopwatch icon, because if I press that, you'll notice the keyframes disappear. Keep in mind that that stopwatch icon has to be on in order for keyframes to be working, so don't press it again at any point if you want, otherwise all that will happen is you press it, it turns it off and all your keyframes disappear, and if you turn it back on again it restarts from the beginning, so you've lost those keyframes you created before. So I'm going to undo that. Okay, instead what we do is we use these controls just here to the left. You've got these arrows, okay, which takes you to your previous keyframe or to your next keyframe. Okay, and you've got a dot in the middle which actually allows you to add keyframes. So if I take that back into the center and just press that, you'll see we get another keyframe there. So it doesn't really change anything in the overall animation itself, but I've got another keyframe property that I can now adjust. So if I just move that out the way a little bit, you'll notice again you've got a larger box there. And what you've also got is these two little dots there, and those are actually your handles for this box, and I'll show you what I mean by handles. What's nice is now I can actually visually adjust this keyframe, so I can say actually I don't want its position to be there, I want it to be slightly higher up, and you'll notice it starts to move. And now hopefully you can see why those other two slightly larger squares were sort of there as well. They were actually the handles, and if I click on those I can actually bend or sort of curve the path really. So, and what'll happen is once I've decided how to do that, you'll notice when it plays the text will actually move and follow that path. So you can actually create curves and paths for text to follow as well that way too. Okay, so let's just quickly play that again just to get an idea. And again, maybe too fast right now, but we can do something about that. Okay, so hopefully that's given you some idea on how keyframes work in After Effects. And what I would say is if we just quickly finish off by looking at the transform property, notice that's only one set of keyframes we've adjusted. We've got scale, rotation, opacity, even the anchor point itself can be changed. And aside from that, there's keyframes for a whole set of other things too. Okay, so have a bit of fun playing around with that.